Hi, I'm Bracken from BrackenOutdoors.com and I've got another knot tying video for you. This time we're going to be talking about the bowline or bowline. So this is a very handy knot for putting a loop in the end of the line or attaching a line to something else, say a tree, a loop on a tarp, something like that. Now this is probably one of the hardest knots that I usually teach. But there is a simple method for tying this knot. So we'll go through that step by step and I'll hopefully show you how the knot pulls itself together, and then we'll have a look at how you can use this in your tarp setups. So when you're learning to tie a bowline for the first time, and when you're initially practicing it, I find it's helpful to have a tree or post for the rope to go around. This will keep the loop open just while we practice getting all of the loops and all of the motions in the right place, and then later on we can do it in thin air. So this time I will be having the rope going around the back of the tree with the working end in my right hand and the standing end in my left. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that standing end underneath itself. You can see there. So we've got the piece of the rope that's going around the tree on the top and the loop facing in towards the center. Now I'm going to come up with my working end up through that loop, and then it's going to drop down and behind that standing line. And then for the last bit, it's going to fold back on itself and come back down through that loop that originally came up through. Okay. And then what we're going to do is go gently, pull it tight, and there we go. That's in place. You can tell that it's tied well because you can see the two loops. There's one loop around the back of the standing line, one over the top, and the little tag end of the working end is pointing up towards the center of the loop. And the chief advantage of a bowline is even if I put a lot of pressure on it, it's pretty easy to untie. You just work this little loop backwards and forwards until it slowly falls apart. So it makes it really handy for something that you're going to put quite a bit of load on. Okay, so showing you one more time. So we come under the standing end, the loop facing in, we come up through, fold down the side, round the back, and then to finish, coming back on itself like that, and we pull nice and tight. There we go, and that's how to tie it. Okay, so when we're tying it without the tree, without the post, it's exactly the same thing. Just go bring that loop under. Okay, standing line under, we come up through, drop down the side, back up through and back on itself. Okay, so we've created our loop. Now this is the way I typically use bowline for my top setup, is I'll have a bowline permanently in the back, in the end of my ridge line. So that means when I get to camp and I'm starting to set up, what I need to do is put bowline and the end of the ridge line around a tree. Now I've got to pull a bite or one of those loops through. Now I can take a toggle, I can just pop it through that loop and put it nice and tight up against the tree like that, and that'll give me a sturdy anchor in a very minimal amount of time. And then when it comes to packing the tarp away, taking everything down, what you do is give it a wiggle, pull the toggle out, There we go. I've got my ridge line with the loop again. So that is bowline. Like I say, I use it for tarp ridge lines. I use it to attach cord to my tarp, so for the guy lines on the corners. And there's a few other knots, a few other uses as well, but really handy to know and use. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was the bowline. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.